Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my show. It's Dr. Joseph H. Vertino here, Reiki Master Usui, excuse me, spiritual guide, author, and musician. And this topic is a beautiful, needed discussion. Does spirituality really matter? And I'm here with my friend SHIPRA, my beautiful friend, and she
Thank you so much.
Was readily available to take on this topic. And as I put in the description, she does have some experience with spirituality in her personal life in that way. And then so do I, also as a spiritual guide. And we'll get to, in this discussion, I guess, that it's not, but it's still a very, the basis of this discussion is still very, very relevant in the sense that it's not just for spiritual people, obviously. And that, it's still centered in truth and the pursuit of truth. So just because, for example, like if you understand that, well, does spirituality really matter? And if someone is, a spiritual person already, who are they to talk about, to assert this as a topic? Well, I would certainly, I would say about that before we get started with our back and forth dialogue in this introduction is that basically I am a genuine seeker of truth, and truth just as it is. So nothing else. So in that way, if you understand that, the conclusions that someone has who's genuinely centered in that place is going to be satisfying in a way universally, because they're based in a genuineness, right, of truth, just like Lord Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, the Ascended Master. And we can get into that historically. If you go into, there's a great book by Herman Hesse called Siddhartha, where he talks about the story of Siddhartha Gautama historically. And in that, my point of this in the introduction is basically that Buddha and really all of us are want to be in that place of genuineness, and someone who is devoted before they even know they're devoted, so to speak. Moving towards the truth. It reflects in the sense that that's the foundation and the grounding of it. It's not anything else other than that. And if you understand that, that's how I am. So that's why it's very, very appropriate for me to be speaking on this topic of the spirituality.
Yeah, so spirituality, let's start with, so say the Bible. So it's about the mother, the mother nature, the feminine energy, how it nurtures you. You have done lots of research in music, and you have done lots of research on the Bible, so you must be knowing, how the mother nature, how the feminine energy, femininity protect us. Yeah. But if you go to the Vedanta philosophy, it's about the time. The time is precious, and that's the spiritual content. It's very, very important if you read those textures. Yeah. So it's all about the time. Once the time, even the fraction of a second is gone, you will not get it back. So I really give importance to the time I spend with the people, with the nature, with the community, or within, a certain environment I'm working with. So that's how I connect, and that is my spiritual explanation, how I lead my life, how I go ahead, how I find the answer to the questions raised in my life.
Thank you for sharing. Yes.
Buddhism is quite different. If you go to the Vajrayana, it is different and very technical. And initial stage is, yes, very immersive, and it takes years and years of practice. It's about the practice. So spirituality is all about practicing.
Okay. Now, so this is
Yeah.
to continue on, right? Rather than to kind of set a
And
roadblock.
you are an expert
we
about that.
already
Yeah, you
started.
are an expert about the spirituality, I will say. Dr. Valentino, yeah. So, so I'm a learner. I'm learning from you the music because my music is different. I study the folk culture. I'm not into the classical one. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So, well, you mentioned my new friend Shipper. You mentioned the Bible and Vedanta,
Yeah.
right? So, two
Yeah.
different, obviously, things that are widely known and accepted and agreed upon that they're in the realm of spirituality. And
Yes.
one is a book that's based in a specific line of thought slash religion, so to speak, Christianity, the Bible. And then Vedanta is a Sanskrit word, I believe, like Ram, right? Sanskrit, like Kirtanwala.
Okay. Yeah.
And so
The satsang. Yeah.
is a different. They're different, two distinct things, but they're both qualify as being in the realm of spirituality. So in that way, now what I guess we could say, and thank you for sharing in the beginning here, and being open and honest, and I would say if we go into the root of the topic, what is so
See,
spirituality?
this topic needs a series. Does spirituality really matters? It
Yes.
needs a series, and it needs a weekly series, right? And it matters in context, like social context, cultural context, economic context. Yes, it does. It matters, and there should be a series on this. Yeah, series 1, series 2, like that.
Sure. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Sure.
Yeah.
I would love to do.
Yeah.
Have if the series. Yeah. If I did like 3 different people and ones and getting their kind of yeah, that's a wonderful idea. So basically, I think in this way is if we understand. I did mention Lord Buddha, the Ascended Master, earlier, and historically speaking, right? So, not even in the sense of spirituality, but in the sense of history, in the sense that there was an actual physical man.
See, Buddha's philosophy was renouncing the world, he has everything. That was his spiritual path to explore the world. Okay. And for those who are into, they have a community, they have a society, being there, they can practice spirituality. So that's how it differs. That's how it differs. Like those, say the ethnic groups, so their spirituality is completely different. Like watching the moon, like moon gazing, sunbathing. So these are the spiritual experiences. Yeah, it teaches you more than the texture.
Well, yes. I mean, in the sense
And
now,
the
if
scriptures have been.
what we could take it this way now. So there's different lanes in the sense if you understand. So semantically, this is the way we have to start. So if we're going to have an intellectual discussion, meaning that the discussion has a point to it implied by the word intellectual, meaning that there's a education.
Exactly.
It's education, right? And there's a progress desire for progression, right? So the way to do that, the really only way to do that is by
how to incorporate it into the education system, the spirituality.
Oh yeah.
Seeing the learning,
But you're
learning and
but you're
teaching
going,
dynamics and other things.
you're jumping too far. So
I did not jump. I just indicated where you are, what you are doing. That's I did
so
not. I did not.
so basically what it is that if we understand that in order to have a progressive intellectual discussion, there has to be semantics. So semantics is the logical definition slash meanings of words. So we have, does spirituality really matter? Right? Does spirituality really matter is the entire
Yes.
thing. Now the thing is that that's not a subjective thing. That's an objective, meaning it's a discussion that we're having with other
Yeah.
people, and we have to be on the same page and definitions of the setting first. And then once we establish that, then because you have the same, it's like, for example, if you were doing a foot race and everyone had to start at the same exact line, and this is like that. So the semantics is like everyone's putting their feet on the starting place in the
Yeah.
same exact starting
I
place.
understand.
Because if you run the race and you're acting like everyone was on the same starting place when they weren't, and then you get to the end of the race, it doesn't matter at the end because you didn't start the race properly, right? So that's what semantics it is, the power and necessity of semantics.
Yeah.
So we have what does spirituality really matter? So if we look at each word, if we look at each word in our title first, so
Exactly.
matter. So in that way, we in looking at it now, this is a tricky one because now in our discussion, that's an objective discussion. I'm frozen. Are you still there? Hopefully you're still there. I got frozen. There you go. I mean, you're moving a little bit. Can you still hear me and see me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you. Why is it so?
Did it get frozen? Hopefully it comes back on here. Well, I guess I'll just keep talking. Hopefully the video comes back on. Not yet? You can hear.
No. Yeah, I can hear you. Your voice is clear, but I'm not able to see you.
Is it frozen? Is that what it is? All right. Well, hopefully it comes back.
All right.
All right. But anyways, well, it might just stay that way and they'll see you the whole time. Oh well. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, semantically, does spirituality really matter? Now, the thing about this is that if we understand the words objective and subjective, so object.
Why is there an error that you are not visible?
What's that?
Is there an error that you are not visible on the show?
I don't know. It's because I had an alarm on my phone and I just turned it off, and then I went back in and it must have glitched. So that
All
I mean,
right.
there's pictures on my profile.
Okay. All right. Get back to the topic.
Let me see. Yeah, I'm still on here. Mike, everything working kind of still, even if I'm not seen on it. Mute, not mute, cam. But anyway, so semantically, we have a different the difference between objective and subjective. Objective being in philosophy, and philosophy in that way is the politics falls under philosophy, science technically in that way under philosophy, because it's the you have to be in the I can't really explain that right now, but it does. That philosophy is the big kind of umbrella, right, of the whole of that of
exactly.
necessary
It's
function.
a very vast area, philosophy. Yeah.
Wait, what?
I said it's a very vast area. Philosophy, when you say it's a very vast area.
Oh, well, yeah, sure. So then basically you have science, and then you have so philosophy is like the whole umbrella, and then like politics and science, because they both require rational thought in that way in order to function. And then philosophy, there's kind of a reason in there why that they're both under the umbrella of philosophy, just generally. But the philosophical terms objective and subjective. So subjective is your personal experience that can't ever be otherwise. So object is like a scientific law, right? So that, for example, if you were here with me and you were in my house, saw the chair that I'm tapping on right now, that you can hear,
Mhm.
it would be the same chair, meaning like it's the same chair, color, everything about it's the same, but you're a different person who has a different subjective personal experience of life. So you might have a certain feeling about the chair than I do, but it's the same chair. So the objective in that kind of way. So we understand that there's the objectivity and subjectivity are both
Mhm.
vastly in play together in this topic. This very, very relevant
Mhm.
topic that I put very clearly in the description needed to be
Mhm.
talked about. And
Yeah.
yeah. And then basically, so in that we are objective, in the sense of sanity, of language, that we have language together, right? That we're communicating. Does spirituality really matter? Well, what does matter mean? Does it get the job done? Is there a goal as soon as you wake up in the morning,
Yeah.
even though we really are just existing? Is it getting that? Is it going? Is it helping with that goal? Is that goal relevant? Is that goal the whole thing? Is that goal
Mhm.
something that can't go away? And if it does, then we have a big problem, right? Is that goal your survival? Is that
Yeah,
goal?
and relevance in the context, the not
Yeah,
only the education. I mean, when the real education starts, when you say the elementary education is the real education, university education is the real education. Yeah, that also you have to. So there is a divider. When you say the education, there are divides. Elementary education and university education. So a child might not understand the spirituality, the meaning of spirituality.
yes.
When
Yeah,
yeah,
so,
but yeah, he does. He goes to the masses, like he goes to the prayer. I mean, without knowing, also he's connected that way. But they go to the university level of education, so then we need to do a little bit of I'll say the sensitive kind of research that what is the real education? The elementary education shapes us, or the education, the later stage. Yeah,
well, so yes, and in my book, The
yeah.
Reform Education System, I have a chapter in there about
Mhm.
spirituality in schools, Buddhism in schools, enlightenment in schools. But it's not the whole book. Certainly, even though I'm a spiritual guy, I
Mhm.
made the whole book about that. I didn't at all, and it's very clear.
Mhm.
The majority of the book is not that.
Yeah,
Um,
because I'm
yeah,
I'm a life skill trainer. I'm a life skill trainer. I'm not the guide, I would say. I'm a life skill trainer. I'm a counselor. So I take spirituality that way. Yeah. So to my clients, but going deeper at personal level is different. So spirituality also have many categories. Yeah, like when we say the culture as a commodity, so we have taken that spiritual element of culture and how we commodify the spirituality, the term, not in terms of Buddhism, but in other sects or other yeah religions also.
so well, so okay, so if we understand, if we now if we go into this, because I don't want to,
Yeah.
like, for example, I think of the people that would be watching this, that would be at a place
Okay.
of intrigue, obviously, if they're watching it, but they might be at a place of despair, frustration with life, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you understand that, does spirituality really matter? Well, if you're looking at
Yeah.
it clear, you could say, if you're in a place of despair to the point of suicidality, and you're looking at
Yes.
spirituality, and I would say immediately, go into it, go into spirituality, and allow
Yeah.
yourself to be absorbed in that newness of it, and in that
Yeah.
place of you would, yeah, it would be safe. It has the ability to save people, obviously, spirituality.
Yeah,
And
I mean, spirituality you can connect through dancing, you can connect through music, or you
yes,
can simply go for a walk. you know. So that's how you can, yeah, a spiritual person is not always going or being immersed in, 8 hours of meditation. Yeah, it's not like that. Yeah, even a 5 minutes of slow walk. Yeah, it's spirituality. Yeah. So these are the simple steps to start with. When we say spirituality really matters, these are like looking at the birds or looking at the trees. Yeah. So spirituality is more about celebrating your life, each and every moment. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, we're kind of working, so to speak. If the person is here and they are, as a master educator, you have to understand that if you understand the point of education is to educate people, and that if you understand that, the best way to do that is assuming that the person that would be in front of you, your audience, doesn't have a priori, I believe is the right Latin word, prior knowledge, meaning that they don't have a prerequisite education, that they're just,
Mm-hmm.
it's so you, and in that assumption, you're pulling off the education rather than not. Right. So for example, in context of the video, right in here and now, if people are, we have to assume that that's true in order to you know do our job of being good people to educate in the way that we can, in the podcast.
Yeah.
And the title of the podcast is spiritual education. And if we
Yeah.
understand that, like I said earlier, there's really not, I'm not a biased person. I'm a very real and genuine person. And
Exactly.
uh, you know you have to understand that, like, for example, the Saint Francis, teach, or what was it, um teach with your, or what was it, lead by example and use words if necessary. But basically, in that way, it's about you embodying the
Mm-hmm.
truths that you would be, in that way, and understanding that sometimes you get to a certain place, spiritual guide and all, whose dharma is to
Mm-hmm.
use, and where there isn't a opportunity to use them, and but you are in that, you know you could say
Mm-hmm.
the learning experience for you in being kind, even though you might feel that there's a thing like, I need to teach them and say things with words. But if that option's
Mm-hmm.
not available, you in that place
Yeah, that.
of still being with a person, and in that having the personal experience of love without the communication of words, is still you, it's still the real you in that sense, right? So just because I can't, say something in the sense of spirituality or not, doesn't somehow disable the truth of it. Then in that understanding, then you have trust. In that trust, what you're doing is you're trust
Exactly.
the divine with that person, so to speak, because you wanted to help them, but you couldn't, meaning you couldn't
Yeah.
help them with words, right? So you're
Yes.
in that embodying that reality, of the divine. Um, and so, and then in that, then basically you're at a place where, you know well, yeah, it's like, for example,
That's why I
if,
said
if
that
children,
the reading of text or whatever the scripture is there. So it takes years to understand, and then you move towards the practice, right? So once you understand the scriptures, the text of that particular religion, if you are following the spirituality through that way, that is different. And the spirituality is just flashing a smile, not being always very firm, offering help to the stranger or unknown, whosoever, being kind, being compassionate. So these are very simple steps to be spiritual, very simple. Yeah. So that way also we can practice spirituality, and it matters. It matters.
Yes. And in that that practice. So this is the other thing I was going to say. On a serious level, now, if we're using the word practice, practice is a very serious thing. If you think of someone who's, on a career level, if it's someone's highest excitement, their career,
Mhm.
they're practicing something. That's a very serious thing.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
you,
it's a huge investment. Yeah, you invest yourself. You invest your. It's kind of intellectual immersion. You go through to study. With the master for years and years. So it is a serious business. Yeah. So that is being an expert, and practicing spirituality is different.
yes. So this is interesting to me in the sense that if you understand that spirituality is a serious thing, and I feel like
Yeah.
that does matter. So, for example, even if someone's listening to this and they're hearing my voice as
Yeah.
another person saying
Yeah.
this thing that we're discussing is a serious thing, that
Yes.
I think is a certain connection that is needed to be established in the sense of rationality between one human and another human. And notice that in
Yeah.
that I've said nothing and made no move to convince about spirituality, though, right?
Mhm.
But if you understand that the probability of that communicative connection being established is
Yeah.
greater, we could say, in someone who practices spirituality than if they don't. In the sense, and also if you look at it, well, yeah, that's the end of that sentence. And like I said, I'm not
Yeah,
trying.
it's
I'm just in a.
see, spirituality is collecting. The whatever the collected wisdom into the act. It is personified. Yeah, it's your action. Spirituality is your action. It's not just the closed eyes and you are the, the bundle of wisdom or the scriptures or the text. Yeah, that's how I understand. Yeah.
So you're telling me about your subjective experience with spirituality.
It's very objective experience, like experiencing the echoes going in the mountain, and they're going to the caves, and the celebration of the communities, and how the particular ethnic group, and how the many of the environmental movements that started, that journey that started, it was very spiritual, very spiritual.
Yes. So if you understand that, us being at yes. So we're talking about objective and subjective, and you were saying that you mentioned books, right, in context, and then it sounded like you
Yes.
mentioned. It sounded like you saying about how you incorporate it into your daily life, in the sense of
Yes.
your your kind of attention, uh, in that way. If I heard you correctly, it sounded like I thought I heard you talking about when you go for walks. I don't know if I heard that in there. I heard uh, textbooks and something like that, and it sounded like you
Mhm.
said about your personal daily
Yeah,
experience. Yeah.
see, textbook is the easiest way to, it's given to but the whole scripture, those, I will say sometimes it is vague for those, outside, those coming from the outside. Yeah, it is not vague unless you immerse yourself for at least 5 to 10 years. You will not be able to understand any scripture coming from any particular faith or religion, per se.
Well, yes. So this is, I guess, in that way, we could say you taking it in a logical way for yourself And also, I'm not the one making the rules of your life, right? I'm just simply on a video. And, I am a master healer, Reiki master, so expert in the field of medicine, tradition known as Usui. And having that gaze, so to speak.
He's here only. He's here.
What
at
is that?
this moment. He's here at this moment.
Is here at this moment?
The Reiki master.
Oh, I am. Yeah.
All right. My aunt is a Reiki master. She's a Japanese Reiki master. Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah. Yeah. Reiki is a wonderful.
Yeah, it's a traditional healing. Yeah.
Now we could put it in context of this in the sense bringing Reiki into this discussion.
No, but we can't bring it right now. We are just that spirituality matters. So when we go to that level, that particular what spirituality is, how you define spirituality, isn't it? How spirited you are. It's all about the spirit. Yeah.
Yes.
So you are guided by a spirit, and then spirituality matters. It is about your action, it is about your thoughts, it's about your feelings.
Well, yes, that's okay. So you said it's about your actions, your thoughts, and your feelings. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. Actions, thoughts, feelings. So spirituality in that way. And yes, I mean, because of God, that's God's love beginning in a person. Yeah. Because
so can we keep this conversation just the short, like half an hour, half an hour, half an hour, so it will not make complicated and boring, isn't it? So just cut it here, right?
Well, yeah, in that way that yeah. Yeah, I mean in that way,
yeah, it's 30 minutes. Yeah, let it be here and do little bit editing, and then we will see how it works. Yeah, because I don't like the blah blah, not too much words, just the substance we talk about. Yeah.
So yeah, understanding that.
Yeah, so thank you for having me here, and we'll just continue, and I'm hoping we'll get a good feedback how the viewers they see, and what is their perspective on spirituality. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe.
Are you able to say we're only at a half an hour? I usually do an hour.
Yeah, half an hour because I have another thing, and also I keep it just half an hour only. Yeah, I mean technically and practically also it is good.
Okay. Yeah, if you have another thing to do, obviously keep you, but I would prefer, because this is important,
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
But if you can't. Well, thank you for your time. I hope everyone benefited from learned.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, in conclusion, yes, does spirituality really matter? In our understanding of that, yeah. So spirituality in that way, does it really matter? Well, I know that you matter, and I know that I matter, and I know that you not knowing that me or knowing anything about me or that I matter doesn't affect the fact that I know that you matter and that I love you. So if you understand that, that's really the core of spirituality anyways, right? So that's really the whole thing. And then, and it's a personal thing. Just like people say your relationship with God, with Jesus Christ, Yeshua, another ascended master, Yeshua the ascended master, is a personal thing. That there's nothing, it can't be any other way, And as I mentioned earlier, God's love, is the what was I going to say? knowing you on a personal way, in the sense that, yes, 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 in the sense that you have thoughts, you have feelings, that you're a person, that you have skin and cells and desires and that are, and opinions, right? And all of these things. And that you you could say, just being, right? God loves you just by being. So it isn't about the reason that I think Jesus Christ said, I am beyond this world, or whatever you want to say. I'm not of the world, I am in the world. The truth in that sentence is inherent in this kind of thought process that we're kind of in together, that I'm saying, in the sense of, you understand that you as an individual are able to get to, let's say, what was it? Not being of the world, but being in the world. So understanding that you're loved for just being. And if you understand that, that's, I feel, was the meaning of Jesus Christ, Yeshua's uh, uh, teaching, or truth sharing, really. His biography, right? That I'm not of the world, but I'm in it, right? I'm in front of you. We're in the world together, but I'm not of it, right? So the implication of that is basically that you can be at a place of of understanding openly and honestly, in the sense that that's the only way that it can be, in the sense that we're here in this beautiful universe to learn, to grow, to expand, to be, to have relationship. That's what's going on in that way. And that you being of that perspective is needed, meaning that you understanding where I am at, right? There's a reason that you're hearing my voice, right? And and that in that, um yeah, so as you are, present to your being, you're here, and that you matter. Does spirituality really matter? Well, it wouldn't be possible for there to be a spirituality without a you. So that means that, and God, God does, loves you just because you are, right? That you're loved, right? And that's true. And that being in that place of just being able to hear that, that's why I have this video on, you know. And that the more that you are, rooted in the conscious understanding of that love, the reality of that love, the more in alignment you will be. Alignment being, like, outside of my house here, I have railroad tracks, right? And they have to be in lines in order for the railroad to function as an entity, or whatever, as a system. So you, being part of creation, I guess, not to sound rigid or offensive, or like you're a cog in a machine, but we understand that there is a universe or world that we are in, and that we're meant to be in it. And if you understand, yeah, in that way, that, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? So yes. So does spirituality really matter? Well, we could say, asking the question of yourself, does spirituality really matter? In that way, we are enabling ourself to succeed, in the sense that just questioning, asking the question. So if you understand, we go back to Yeshua, the ascended master. I am not of the world, but I am in it. So meaning that the energy that would deny or attempt to destroy or dissuade the individual, which is the inevitableness of creation, that there's individuals, from entertaining the curious mind and questioning things, is why Jesus took arms against it, meaning the world. That's why he declared very clearly, I am not of the world, but I am in it. Now, if you understand that, that's what was meant. So in that way, and then basically, in the sense that, if we go back talking about alignment, so if you allow focus yourself to let go of focusing on one thing at a time, right? And as you're in that focus, right, you're coming into, I guess you would call, coherence, right? Meaning you're coming into homeostasis, equilibrium, right? And you're raising your vibration, so to speak, and putting yourself into that place where there doesn't need to be anything in particular going on besides you in that place of focus. And then as you are living out that path over and over again of focus, of every day, noticing that there's really only one thing going on, then in that, focus, you are doing the most important practice, so to speak, right? And that does qualify as a spiritual practice, but you don't have to call yourself a spiritual person per se. I mean, and what's the point if you're enjoying life just by being in that place of concentration? Then you don't need to. There's you going into a bunch of spiritual texts and saying have to be a more sincere seeker. You don't have to do that. I mean, I recommend certain ones. I would recommend Zen Buddhism, and such, and then allowing yourself, don't make an enemy out of it, though. Don't make an enemy out of spirituality. Does spirituality really matter? Well, that's the end of the sentence. Don't make an enemy out of it. And I very much am a spiritual guide. Every word you've heard out of my mouth is from me, who is a spiritual guide. First word is spiritual, and guide means that I introduce people to it, and I'm an expert in the field of it. So you're getting the most accurate information, that you would possibly get. So recognizing, so what did we learn today? We obviously learned something, and we're on the same page of that. So me being a spiritual guide who represents spirituality properly in that way, guaranteed. You sharing your time with me obviously not knowing anything about you personally, right? But us having a time together, so to speak, and us learning together, civilly, check, success, amen, right? And then yay, right? So and yeah, so and then it's obviously, it can become riddled, right? It can become too riddled, too what's that called, chaotic, in the sense that there's so many different like things, like a bunch of little like fireflies around you, in the sense that and when you're attempting to approach or get into spirituality, right? It's like there's all these different, like I go to the people and they're like, try this and this. Like I want to enjoy one flavor at a time, right? And then in that place, um yeah, being in that place, you're being your authentic self. Like I have a video on YouTube called uh what is that called, Authenticity is the Way. There's a video by Joe Vertino on youtube.com called Authenticity is the Way. I have a white cream long sleeve shirt on, and I'm in a different setting. I don't know if you can see me on video, but I'm in a different setting than this one. And it's a wonderful video. And yeah, in the sense that um why would there be an issue with God, in the sense that if there was meant to be a reality in which it seems as if the non-religious or non-spiritual people, who maybe we could say or are combative against spirituality, would be attempting to manifest, if that was the case, then why would there be an issue at all with God? Because there wouldn't be one. Does that make sense? uh, Anyways, I love you. Thank you for tuning in. I pray that you can be blessed, that you can be healed, that you can manifest properly, and that you can allow love, allow love, so to speak, is really the whole sentence. Is allow love, more love into your life, and being at a place where your natural self dominates, meaning that the parts that are of the world lose. And recognizing the joy in that. Yes. And who's to say what you are of? Right? You're in the world. Who's to say what you are of? Does that make sense? That's oppression. That being at that resonance with yourself is really the only thing going on, right? That's why that would be oppressive. And in that, there's a joy, And what is a world without people that are able and safe to fully and allow joy to happen? Does that make sense? So as you and what I do recommend, like Walt Whitman, And there's a reason that I'm still talking on this podcast, even though my friend left it half an hour too early. The reason being, to the point earlier, you matter. Does spirituality really matter? Well, you matter. Well, I would love to have this conversation with people who are, they're like, I'm in a place where I'm going through the change and it's just like going on. And I'm like, you know what? You matter. Yeah. And then letting yourself be at that place where you are coming into that alignment, that coherence, right? It's like your own personal feng shui, right? Where you are not, you're accepting of just generally in that place of acceptance. And if you understand that acceptance is not particularly, it's certainly for a fact, is not only feminine energy, meaning it's not only yin. So yin, there's yin, which is receptive and feminine, and then yang, which is masculine and assertive. So if you understand that yin and yang apply to everybody, that there's no one in the world where yin and yang aren't applicable to them, right? So that's just the truth, obviously. And if we understand that you in the place of, in context, last part of wisdom for this video is pretty much, is if you're accepting, this is a receptive movement, right? So this would be yin. And then yang would be this, right? So yin, yang. Now, if we understand that you accepting is the whole thing of that. So if you're accepting, this is called a receptive movement. And then if you're accepting that the yang energy is part of the whole thing and that's part of you and the whole experience of life, then that's still acceptance, right? Or you're accepting that an action, a positive action, needs to be taken. That's why that's yang is still in the alignment, right? Meaning this is still acceptance, right? So for example, I can accept. So for the one interpretation is I can accept how I feel. I feel about a situation. I accept it. And then if you are accepting that there needs, and there is an appropriate emotions involved or what have you, obviously, because you can't not be that way, accepting that there needs to be a certain action and that your response immediately, we could say, to a something, accepting that, right? Because it's correct. So that's still acceptance. So if you understand that me accepting how I feel would be in yin and not to act and allowing the stillness is yin. And then me accepting that there needs to be some kind of action and that I'm doing it is another thing that's yang, right? So, and then if you understand that all of this stuff that I'm talking about in yin and yang is found in the realm of particularism, I guess you can call it, right? That we have yang and yin, and that it's a universally applicable thing. That because we all have, like I said earlier, we all have the yin yang is intrinsic, right? If you go into it, it just is an intrinsic thing. And that's what's nice about it, is you can kind of lay your head on it, right? It's a reliable thing. That's a foundation. And then obviously, if you understand that, you having something that you can rely upon and rest on is a very necessary thing that the scientists, psychologists, would agree with. You having something that you are able to be at that place called the world with. So for example, I think, and Confucius in that way, being a Chinese mystic, historically speaking, and then there being the understanding of Confucianism still being tied to spirituality. It's not quite tied to, I don't know, it's part of philosophy, spirituality in there. And certainly philosophy and spirituality are friends. We're friends, we're buddies, right? And if you see it in that way, that philosophy, like I mentioned earlier, is an umbrella that politics and science are under. So in that way, that's the thing. So if you understand that, the point about Confucius, and the point of really about this, is that spirituality is practical, in the sense that if you understand, but the thing about it is you have to understand that God's love is perfect, and that I am not you and you are not me, and it's never not going to be the case that's true forever. And then, basically putting yourself into a place where you are accepting you deserve to be happy and not suffer needlessly. And then that being the driving motivational force of your life. Just go with it. That is the whole thing, right? That's the whole motivation, right? So you wake up in the morning and you sit there and you're meditating, but do it. Don't not do it just because I'm using the word meditation. Do it because it's good and it's needed. Sit there and reverberate, so to speak, with that truth. I deserve to be happy and not suffer needlessly. So sitting there and you're breathing and you got a cup of water or whatever, but don't just that. And then you could say it, right? One good time at least. I remember I had a nephew and there used to be chocolate, and he would eat the chocolate and then he would take his hands and put them in mudras. And then he would put the mudras like this. And then after he eat the chocolate, and he was in that place of, there's a wisdom in that, coming from his soul, because he's saying, one piece of chocolate I'm fully enjoying, and allowing that to be the whole thing. Because I mentioned earlier, you can only do one thing at a time, and then putting yourself, accepting that real quick, right? And then from there, now you made that now you're actually on that spot of humility. Took a step with in full humbleness. Boom. And now from there, because now you're not afraid, of being educated by somebody else that's actually you're supposed to be learning from. You know what I mean? Like me. And then that's the whole thing, because you're doing it for yourself. You're not and that's the end of the thing. I want to watch this video from Dr. Joe Vertino because it is, I don't need to give you a reason per se, but I could, because I know from my personal experience that it's aligned and aligning, right? So then basically being in that place where you are, accepting I deserve to be happy and not suffer needlessly, then my personal thing is to click this, to click the Joe video, and then I get to be there with it, right? And in that, that's the whole thing. That's the education. That's the end of the thing, right? So, us being at that place where we are, you know, willing to grow, willing to get better, willing to heal, willing to manifest, willing to be educated, right? Now, if you understand that a true master isn't going to say, I like they can say like, I know I'm real, I'm a real master, okay? And then, but they won't ever dissuade you, so to speak, from from like you going out into the field and enjoying the time in nature, right? So saying like they would never come in between you and your own personal growth without them there. That's just true. So you accepting the more and more and more that as you're on your own personal path and that you matter, right? Which I've said literally 50 times in this video, and there's a reason I'm saying it. And then in that place, the acceptance of that truth that you matter, right? So, yeah. And that's what makes life rich. So, for example, if you were, say, you started doing a nature, connecting with nature, right, individually, and you started that and you did it for 3 weeks and you went out there every day and you said, let's at least do a half an hour where we're in nature and we're allowing ourselves to be. So then in that place where you are like, okay, so I'm here, I'm in nature, and I'm spending time. I'm spending time with, you know, all that I am and all that I have being in the place of the earth. And then basically resonating, so to speak, to use a weird word, but you're in nature. You're here. You got set the time. We got half an hour, go, right? And we're in nature and we're just letting ourselves kind of, be here. And it's great. But if you say that kind of seemed like a failure, uh, and then being in that place, where you are accepting that for something it didn't seem to work. And then you could say, does spirituality matter? Well, you coming to a spiritual talk, of mine and hearing you matter 50 times in the time span of an hour. And then there's something that could happen. And I would say, and then I talk about nature again. And then you say, I'm going to go back in nature now. And then it starts to sink in, right? So that's your answer. Yes, spirituality matters. So that's the end of our talk. And you matter, and you're the individual, in that way, and you deserve to be happy, right, and not suffer needlessly. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. So the more that you acknowledge, you know, rather than deny, you know, generally, that's my prayer, you know, amen. That you acknowledge rather than deny. And I don't mean playing defense on basketball. That's not what I mean. You know, being at that place where you are, you know, yeah. Okay. Yes. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Please do like, share, subscribe, and watch more of my stuff. Dr. Joseph H. Vertino here. My YouTube is Joe Vertino. Obviously, this is on YouTube. My other one is Joseph Vertino. My Amazon with my books on it is just my name here in blue without the doctor part, Joseph H. Vertino, on Amazon. And then my Facebook is Joe Hastings, Hastings, Vertino, or just Joe H. Vertino. And then what else? I have my personal professional website, joevertino.com, all lowercase, no spaces. That's joevertino.com, all lowercase, no spaces, which I highly recommend. And I'm looking for work. You know, I teach one-on-one. I need to teach online satsang. So podcast, that's why the podcasts are here. And basically interviews, have people, events, anything. You know, anything in that way where there is, you know, stuff. Yeah. Anyways, love you. Thank you for tuning in. May you be blessed. Angel blessings. All right. Thank you. Dr. Joe Bertino over and out. And thank you to my friend SHIPRA for coming on for half an hour and sharing some of her knowledge with us. All right. Adios. Let's see how do we do this.